call this meeting to order. Consent agenda. Do we have to make a motion on that?
Minutes? Yes.
Yes. All right. Everyone had time to review the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, everyone agrees with them? All in favor say aye.
Oh, we need a motion.
Oh.
Harlan?
What's that? Yeah.
I cannot make a motion.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't either.
So,
Phil, is second?
Thank you.
all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, new business. The 2022 Fly-In Air Show. Anyone have any updates on that?
Can you just give us a brief about what you're gonna do? Everything, I know it went through the council already, but
So we do have the air show, we have 5 acts. Climbing wall from the National Guard is potentially coming up. We'll do the airplane rides to try to get more kids interested in flying. Band, beer garden to raise money for the next year. We just got another $2,000 sponsorship last week from Spicer. Just got the check today, just got a check yesterday from Quick Trip for $1,500. So sponsorships are still rolling in. We hope to have the sponsors finalized by, I think, August 1st is what we set for the deadline. And then going from there, Friday we'll be doing a practice show sponsorship dinner where it gives our sponsors an opportunity to come out and watch the show. We'll do a dinner for appreciation and stuff like that. Just got done working with a photographer to come out and actually take photos of each sponsorship in front of, or each sponsor in front of the air show act plane so they can have pictures of that. And then Saturday will be the show. So that's about all I have on my end. Still working through the FAA approval process, which has been interesting.
What is the FAA approval process to approve the air show?
the FAA,
The FAA has to approve it, so we have to write an emergency operations plan.
But I thought that's like one of the first things, or no?
It's, paperwork just has to be submitted.
Okay.
And now they're going through everything, making sure we're waiving the right things and all that stuff.
it's a long process,
It is a long process,
painful process.
so.
And we've got a temporary tower coming.
Temporary control tower, we'll finalize that on August 8th, was my conversation today. We just got the frequencies assigned today, actually, so,
They don't allow this year.
yeah. So they got a couple volunteers that are coming up. They need to have, I think, 6, so just want to make sure they have that 6 before they.
I mean,
How
nice.
many people are you anticipating in? 2,000?
Last year, the air show
last
pilots,
year.
the air show pilots last year said we had 2,500, 2,000 to 2,500. I'm anticipating more than that. We just posted the flyer on Facebook last night. It's already had 3,800 views just from 9 o'clock last night to now, so.
How far are you marketing? I mean, I know you mentioned Spicer, Wilmer, I mean, those areas, but are you?
Statewide,
Okay.
Wisconsin, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota. There was 218 flyers that went out to the airports in Minnesota, and then the ones that border Minnesota. Border Minnesota.
We put in the Midwest Flyer too, right?
Yep. Midwest Flyers advertising, so I think they cover
We covered 3 states.
3 states, 4 states. Last year we had a pilot from Colorado come in for it. What that close.
You gotta do a Minnesota flyer too, that's the one that climb all the way.
Oh, yeah,
it's
to make
in
sure.
there.
Yeah. So, can't think of the guy's name, Tim or Tom, but Tim, I think is his name, that's always emailing, so. And then it's on MnDOT's website, it's also on the International Council of Air Shows, which is the whole US. It's on their website. So. Good. Old business.
The infrastructure renewal program, the AIR, Chuck, can you give us any update on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's basically a program that will help fund different types of projects associated with economic development on an airport. it's a 50/50 grant. In 2022, they had $500,000. They gave out 1 grant for $250,000 to Rochester to build a hangar for Great Plains Aviation. That seems to be sort of the normal type grants that you're seeing given out. It's for, basically for businesses that are operating on an airport, for hangar improvements or redevelopment.
What percentage of,
It's a 50/50.
50/50 on?
You know, but like in Rochester's case, their cost was 1.75 million, and they got a $250,000 grant. Looks like Alexandria got one a few years ago to renovate a building. That was close to 50%, so it just depends on the project. But yeah, it's to enhance jobs, increase tax, it's associated with economic development, increased tax base.
Getting an FBO and mechanic in here seems to be our biggest goal, correct me if I'm wrong. Hey, are we better off trying to pursue something like this, or would that qualify for discretionary funding, or would it just fall under the committee's funding?
Yeah, probably not discretionary funding, I guess I'd have to check on that. You're saying to build a hangar?
Well, I think our number one goal for years has always been to get a mechanic FBO in here. And if that's still our goal, how are we gonna get there?
Yeah, I mean, you can use your federal funding typically to build a FBO type building. I just don't know how it's gonna rank on when it gets into the discretionary funding. And this is a program we could always pursue too, depending on what they're going to do.
Well, it's just something we're gonna have to keep working on.
It'd be nice to offer something other than fuel. It's the only service we offer is fuel, that's it.
Right.
Need an oil change or any maintenance, guys gotta go somewhere else.
And maybe it's something we can put on the airport CIP as well, as if you do want to pursue an FBO building. You know, that could be, I think we did have one on there temporarily, I believe, when we were looking at buying another building that was out there. That was on there at one point in time, so.
Okay, any other questions on that?
Airport CIP.
Yep, can you walk us through that also?
Yeah, so in your packet is a copy of the CIP. Obviously, the next big project is the pavement recap project that's planned for 2024 at this point in time. Basically, that project includes on this runway, all the pavement along the runway, but on the apron as well as the taxi lanes. You can see the different percentages. Some of the taxi lane pavement would actually be completed utilizing a state grant. That includes updating some of the lighting as well to the LED style lighting. This is a project that if we're going to want to pursue, we are going to want to initiate some more discussions with the FAA and MnDOT fairly soon, just to make sure we get there, because this does require discretionary funding. This is above and if you look on there, we're looking at least $1 million in federal discretionary funding, so above and beyond what we normally get through our enhancements. So that would be a full depth reclamation. Basically, we would grind up all the existing pavement and repave it.
How long of a project is that?
It's usually you have to give them at least 6 to 8 weeks to bet. And that's just off the top of my head. I've been involved in a couple of these, and I think that's about the time frame, give or take. Maybe we usually put a schedule, leave a allotment in there for them to get everything done. The lighting might increase that a little bit and get the lighting done at the same time. So there's some downtime for the airport right now.
And the discretionary funding is still the same as where we pay 5%.
Correct. And typically, like a runway pavement ranks fairly high when it comes to federal. The discretionary funding, obviously, the pavement conditions ranks fairly high.
And right now, you're estimating our portion of that to be about $160,000.
Well, if you look at it, what this what this shows, shows the local share at 270.
Right.
Well, if you look at it, that, it doesn't have the 5% match in there. Usually, or for a long time, as long as I can remember, MnDOT has always done their 5% match, so it ends up being 95.5. So that would reduce it down to, I don't have the number in front of me, Ron, but it was, for the first top three, it would be half that, so it'd be 75. Yeah, about 160 total. If we did all the pavement, it would be about 160. We did talk about phasing that, if need be. Maybe trying to do the apron and the runway as one project and do the taxiways as a separate project. That'd be an option as well to reduce the local share.
Can we keep it in one project, but do a portion of it in 2025? Do the runway 1 year and the taxiway the next? Or does that get too cumbersome also for the pilots?
Well, the taxiways by the hangars are in bad shape.
No, well, I mean, the question.
The wall is brand new, you know, that's those new ones. I mean, that stuff's pretty fast.
Yes, yeah,
That won't get touched.
I mean, I won't touch that at all, but
No.
the older hangars, but it's still not in bad shape.
No, they're not, it's,
The runway needs it.
the runway needs.
The runway and the apron's pretty cracked up.
Yeah.
And I
The
think
two
we
needs some
talked,
upgrade.
if we just did the runway, our percentage would be 95,000 probably,
That's the runway and the apron.
runway and the apron.
Yep.
And then at that point, would we pursue a crack sealing project for the remainder of the taxiway?
Yeah, you certainly could.
Yeah, that'd be doable.
I think that would be a good approach.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if you would want to make a motion, but if we pursue that, go in that direction. Because I think we can fund the 95, have the local share in 2024.
You know, one thing we might want to look in the taxiway then is not only a seal coat, or a seal coat in addition to the crack sealing. I mean, that
The
can be done.
overlay.
Yeah, the real thin
Yeah.
type of overlay, just to help reseal all the
Yep.
pavements.
Right. Yeah, I'll walk it tomorrow again, but I think it's, I'll get it tomorrow. Taxiways.
Truck
That's
those
really
days,
cool.
yeah, we gotta be submitted.
It's usually, if I remember it, around in that October timeframe.
Do we want to meet prior to that? Otherwise, we need to recommend this.
I think we probably should
Yeah.
get on it, especially the LED lights too.
Well, then we should have a make a motion to make the change and send this to council at the appropriate time. Or is there anything else that we should go to do the rest of the projects and?
You know, then in the future years, it gets into updating the ALP. Some of that's already been done, the exhibit A has been done, and so it's sort of doing a final. I mean, we haven't updated the ALP in quite some time. It's probably been well over 10 years, probably 10 years plus on that. So then the next project beyond that is looking at doing some kind of environmental assessment for potential parallel taxiway.
So what is a higher priority, do you think, the Crosswind runway or getting this other hangar built for an FBO mechanic? Where should we put that in?
I think the parallel taxiway is more important than crossway runway. I agree.
Technically, the runway we have right now is crosswind.
Yeah, it's always a conflict. Yeah, I'd rather have a parallel taxiway, for sure. Be a lot safer too. A lot safer.
We could add an FBO hangar on there too in a future year if you want.
So the Crosswind runway can either come out or be pushed down?
I'd push that down.
Push
I
that
don't
one
know where
down.
you put it in.
I don't think the crosswind's not on here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're in
there's
2025.
That's an ALP update.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
And when you do an ALP update, well, actually, that crosswind runway where it's shown on the ALP now, it wouldn't be allowed by the FAA.
I don't know where you put it.
Yeah.
We'll have enough room.
Hopefully, and we might not even have to show it on the ALP update, it just depends on the prevailing winds. So, that's why it's on there, is that it had to be part of the last ALP update.
Okay. Thanks for clearing it, clarifying it.
Yeah, so that's just part of the evaluating the different things associated with the ALP. So we want to add an FBO building though at some point down the line?
I think so. Yeah.
Would that go before the parallel taxiway or after?
Boy, I don't know.
So, John?
It would depend on how it comes up too, right? Because if you found somebody that wanted to
Exactly.
do an FBO and would maybe take advantage of the AIR program,
I
they
think,
put 50 in themselves.
I think the biggest thing is to get it on there, because if it's not on there, we can't do it.
Oh, well, they never put it
Let's
on.
get on there, Jeff.
And even if we did get the AIR money, more likely you're going to also be utilizing your entitlement funds to help supplement the AIR money. I would assume that's how we would probably look at it.
Yeah, let's get it on there. We'll put it on there whenever we'll get it.
I would say put it after the parallel taxiway.
I think so.
As long as it's on
Because like
there.
John says, you know, if some company wants to come in and do an FBO, they could do the 50% out of their pocket, but the 50% for the AIR,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
that's 500,000. You can,
Should be able to put some sort of hanger.
you'd be able to get, you know, you're not gonna get a Taj Mahal, but get one for at least a couple planes in there. Nice.
Okay, so we'll change the 24 to repave, or reclaiming and repaving, reconstructing the runway and apron, and then doing the crack seal and seal coat in the taxi lanes. Then we'll add an FBO building after the parallel taxiway.
So would that be 2027 then?
Yes.
FBO building?
Should have a motion.
Motion to approve that? Okay. Who wants to make the motion?
Make that motion to add the FBO to the FBO building, 2027, following the parallel taxiway.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Hangar rental rate increase.
All right. Okay, at our last meeting, I remember here, we discussed this and obviously couldn't make a motion because mostly a conflict there. That did go to the
Budget finance.
Budget and Finance Board, and they came back with some different recommendations, and the mayor would like to have the courtesy, or the long courtesy of making sure you guys are aware of it before it goes to the council, so this is where it's at this point. But
Want me to start?
Sure.
Okay.
You've been here for both conversations, so.
Yeah, the recommendations that were made last time were to add a fuel surcharge of 10 cents for transient pilots, add a $10 service fee to any tenant that pays monthly, raise hangar rental and private land lease annually by 4 to 5%, and have a 25% increase across the board for rates, which will bring the south hangars to 150, north to 125, and then it says here 12.5 cents for private hangars. There was no mention also of the storage. I guess there were a couple of storage units out there as well. Budget and finance, I would say, went along with about half of these. One thing that they did say though is that because Ron looked into having a surcharge for transient pilots. It is possible, but it's kind of administratively challenging, so we figured the amount of money that we'll get by collecting it, it's not worth it, so we're not gonna have a separate surcharge. Raising the rates 4 to 5%, and we haven't figured out if it's 4 or 5. They said, okay, they agreed to that as well. The $10 service fee, they also said, okay, that's fine. The increase that they're recommending is $25 in addition to the one that's already here. So instead of south-facing hangars at $150, the recommendation was $175. North-facing hangars instead of $125, $150. And Ron, I did write down the private hangars. Did you get that number?
Private hangars, they had recommended 40 cents.
Okay. I thought that was it. All right.
My understanding is that 40 cents was pretty reasonable. There wasn't going to be much disagreement over that rate. Is that it?
Well, John, you're on a private hangar.
That seems awfully steep
Okay.
to me comparatively, just looking at other airports and what they charge for private hangar lease. Land lease, most are in the 13 to 15 cent range with a 10 to 13% escalator every 5 years, which would be the contract term. So that one seemed a little steep to me.
Yeah, I spoke,
40, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I spoke with Bob Brown and over this too a little bit, because they were talking about maybe doing a hangar, and at 40 cents a square foot, he said absolutely no way. But, anyway.
There's a minimum charge, right? If it's either
The minimum charge was $300.
10 cents or 300. So it depends on the size of the hangar, I guess. But so almost everyone is at the minimum of 300, right? As far as I believe.
so.
Okay.
Which is in line with others. Staples, for instance, on a land lease is 13 cents or $250 a year, whichever is greater.
Okay.
And we didn't discuss as a board the minimum, so that would stay the same.
No, we didn't.
I think raising the hangar rates to the numbers you gave is going to be a little bit counterproductive as far as meeting budget too. I think you're going to end up with some empty hangars. That's higher than any place in the area. What is that, a 60% increase?
It's $300 a year over what this board proposed.
I'm sorry, what was that?
From what the board proposed at your last meeting, it's $300 a year.
Okay.
So we look at it, we have a wait list right now for people looking at hangars of probably 6 to 8 people long. Ron's comment the last time we signed a lease was we get 1 person off the list and 2 more joining it. All the hangars in the area have wait lists. When we called around to get comparable rates, yeah, people are lower, but they're also waiting for someone to make a move, and then everyone's going to go up. Because everyone's having this discussion of how much should we charge, we all have wait lists, but nobody wants to be the first to act. So, will we be the highest? Probably for about 3 months. But my suspicion from the conversations that Tarek and Ron have had is that by the time we raise, everyone else is going to go up. Hey, Paul. So, we're trying to, the Budget and Finance Board looked at this not as a way of making money at the airport, this still doesn't even get us to break even, but it's decreasing the subsidy that's going there. It's closing that gap from 30,000 to, I think it's around 5 maybe. So it gets it a lot closer. recognizing that there is some economic impact that comes from it, but decreasing the gap so that we can fund things like the runway project.
Well, the other thing that we're doing on our part as well is we're trying to reduce expenses at the airport. And one thing that we didn't come up with a final number yet, but we're reallocating some of the salary and expenses that we have at the airport. And I think the preliminary numbers that we came with is that we can reduce the salaries at the airport by at least 5,000. Is that the number that came up with?
Yeah, probably a little more than that.
So we're trying to reduce the cost at the airport as well from our side.
Yeah, I looked at that list. You look, I had Jason off for change 2 light bulbs, and it wasn't enough as a salary, you know, and I see them guys clean the bathroom and take out the trash, but it's not near what the charges are. There's no way, that price is that, would that, I'll take the trash out and clean the bathroom.
Yeah,
That's horrendous.
I know, we are gonna reallocate the salaries, and then the recommendation that we liked last time, which is turn off the lights, and I think we found out that we can't turn off the lights.
That's working now, right?
Well, it turns out it's a MinDOT thing. They have to be on low.
Okay,
No, it's gotta be a grandfather thing, because some of the airports, they don't far off.
I know they are. I
So
noticed it
it's
came by
gotta
the
be a
list.
newer, I mean, it's gotta be something. I don't get it.
So yeah, we do wanna lower the cost there, and, you know,
Well, once we get the LED lighting, that'll help tremendously.
yeah, but LED lighting, I mean, it's part of this bigger plan, but it's a costly project.
So this hangar waiting list, how many actually have airplanes?
I don't know.
How many of them hatch, I guess I couldn't tell you.
Well, I know 2 people on the list that don't even have an airplane. So the point is, if they're gonna say 175, you don't have an airplane, are you gonna take the hangar? I'm not. So Bob Brown's on the list, he said there was 10 in front of him, that got a hangar June 1st. Where'd the other 10 people go?
Well, it's part of the
They're not
lease
sure we
agreement.
called them, right? And what'd they all say?
Some of them found hangars elsewhere, some of them just said, put me to the back of the list.
Hey, I'm on the council meeting, I'll call you later.
Right. And so if you go up to the 175, I think you're in the same boat.
But
How do you, this isn't my world. I don't fly airplanes, I wish I did. I can go to get a storage locker, it's $150 a month. Or an airplane hangar for the same rate. That doesn't add up in my
These new ones
mind.
out here are not $150 that they just built by Borg. I mean, maybe it's a big storage hangar, but the ones by Borg, there's no way they're $150 a month.
I know what my in-laws are paying, and it's more than $100 a month for a decent-sized unit. So I look at the list of the economic impact. Phil, I think you're one of 2 people who rent a hangar who live in town. Everybody else lives township, or I think as far away as St. Cloud, and have businesses out of town. So when we look at what's the local economic impact, these are city of Painesville taxpayers paying the bill. It's not the township paying that $30,000. And we as a city have to look after those we represent, and those are the taxpayers who live in town. And I have a really hard time justifying why the city of Painesville should cover the cost of an airport that's only used by 2 people who live in our city.
Well, I don't think that's actually correct. I mean, I went through the fuel bills, and the fuel towards the end of July 12th, of the total gallons pumped, only 35.62% were from your hangar tenants.
John?
The other was all transit traffic.
Okay?
So obviously, it's being used by more than the people in attendance.
What do those people do when they fill up with fuel?
Some must stay, some leave.
But
But they're
how
actually
do
coming
we
to
quantify
Painesville.
that?
But that's the problem, is we don't offer any services. We have nothing to keep them here. We have no one coming in to land, get an oil change, you know, an oil change takes how long, once I make it a couple hours?
Yeah, then you gotta fly somewhere to do it, and then fly back.
You know, Dan made a good comment. What do you guys see the airport as? Economic development, infrastructure, or a country club?
I'd like to see it as economic development.
Okay,
But help us quantify that, because right now it's not being quantified. I get, we have 65% of people coming through. but how do I know they're not stopping, filling up, and leaving? That's not gonna change if we raise rents. If you can tell me, look, our courtesy car is putting on 500 miles a year, because everyone who stops for fuel is coming into town, getting coffee, going to Teal's, doing whatever. Now we're quantifying that a little bit. But I have to sell to a city with a dwindling population and a budget deficit where we're looking at having to raise our levy by $300,000, that we have to subsidize an airport? I can't in good conscience do that. We have to close that gap, and I'm not saying we're going to break even, we're not making
No,
a
we're
profit.
not breaking even, no.
But for $300 more a year, I can't believe that we're gonna have empty hangars.
It's $600 more here.
No, this board proposed 300 more, budget and finance is another 300.
Yes.
$25 a month extra from what was proposed here last time.
I've been flying since 1988. If there's one thing I know, pilots are tight asses. And they will leave them. They will leave. And if you take a look at your list, majority of these people, I don't know if you know them, but I know them because I teach them and do their biennials. A lot of these people are retired. Troy Caldwell, Jeff Pauley,
Phil Bailey.
Phil Bailey. There's a couple more in here. John Marshall. There's a bunch of them retired. So what happens when people retire, as soon as they lose that third class medical, the airplane's gone. And if there's not even an airplane in there, they're gonna get rid of it anyway.
Well, how many hangars are being rented now that don't have an airplane in them?
Quite a few,
Why, okay.
because it's reasonable.
Isn't,
But isn't there part of the funding that requires an airplane? Or part of the funding requires an airplane to be in there, right?
True, but we have a lot of transit guys, like Al Johnson.
Al Johnson.
Al
Yes.
Johnson has 3 hangars at all the places that he works at. So when he's here, he puts in the hangar. When he's in Olivia, he puts in the hangar. When he's in Duluth, he puts in the hangar. So it's empty, but he was a tight-on guy. Hangars were cheap, so he put in the hangar. And I think we talked to Al, and he said, they go up. He's back to, no. I mean, I just,
My theory is, if people leave, then you're in worse shape, because now you gotta cover all, right?
that's how I feel too. And if you look where some of these people live, Hector, you know, he's a lot closer to other airports. A lot of guys in the Spicer New London area are a lot closer to Wilmer.
They're not gonna get into Wilmer.
Wilmer's building a new hangar system right now. They're putting a huge apron out there. But that doesn't mean that when openings happen, they'll just put the waiting list there. People put their names on waiting lists where it's cheap and reasonable.
So at the rates you guys recommended last time, you don't think people will leave?
I think we'll still lose people. Few, not as many, but I think we'll still lose some. You know, and a lot of these guys too, like Jeff Kramer, he's got 2 airplanes. Well, he's also got a hangar up by his cabin up in Park Rapids. So I'm sure his salary will just stay there, they'll just dump this.
So how do we close the gap? How do we close that
I call Hector, Glenwood, Litch, and Maple Lake, and every single one of them budget between $20,000 and $50,000 for bid. Every single one.
20 to 50 for what?
per year?
Per year. Actually, Maple Lake's number was a little outstanding, they were 131.
Well, Maple Lake's got some budget difficulties at the moment, and I don't know.
Yeah, because they, but,
Right.
John, who'd you call?
I called Mora, Cambridge, Staples, and Princeton. And same thing, but
So when I have taxpayers ask me, how are you raising our levy so much? And why is the airport, why are we contributing $30,000 a year to the airport? Why don't we raise those costs? Well, it contributes to the economy. How? Help me quantify that, because otherwise what I've got is I've got a constituency that knows their taxes are gonna go up. And part of that is because we have people who can afford to fly planes who won't pay $600 more a year. And this is the perception of the taxpayer, right or wrong.
And if you go through
This
this
is the
list,
perception.
if you go through this list, not one of these guys makes 6 years like a lawyer or civil counsel, or a city administrator. Not one of these guys. And most of these guys are retired and they're all on fixed income. So yes, when you raise it $300, $600, they're gonna be going.
Yeah.
Okay,
A lot of these guys aren't rich people at all.
But
I mean, I don't even know if you know some of these guys. But Phil, Jeff Everywhere, Brad Dames, he's retired. Jim DeRoos, Jim Kramer.
$600 a year versus an increase in the property taxes. So if you, I mean, I get it.
I pay a shit on property taxes.
$600 a year,
A lot in
I
property
thought the gas
taxes.
taxes, groceries, everything else.
I get it.
I will pay $600 a year, I'll take a safe call for it.
So help me quantify the economic benefit.
It's a highway into town. I mean, it does bring people into town.
Then why the city build it?
I wasn't here. It's been around since I was born.
I was
So,
on the committee to help them.
yeah. I mean, because you look at the budget,
It's the city, right? It's just kind of like road.
is it?
It's no, no. I mean, 70% of your fuel sales are from somewhere outside this town.
You know, Andy Western used to fly in every week, from Omaha.
Yeah, well, there's not a retired guy.
You know, we
The
got-
problem that we're having is that there's a majority of the people in town really don't care about the airport because they more or less look at it as, why are we helping pay for this? And it's like, well, I really don't know. I mean, we're running in a deficit budget, and their answer is, why do we have to help pay for it when we don't even use it?
That's how I put it on the splash pad. Phil, when's the last time you took the splash pad signs?
Splash pad, the walking trails, the roads, you know, we donate money to all of that. We help support those because they're part of the community. So it's, you know.
The difference is, I go past the splash pad, it's in use all summer long.
So
I was at the airport all morning, and I do it every day I'm home. I work 7 days on, 7 days off, then 5 days I'm out there flight instructing, teaching kids.
How do we quantify the economic benefit to the community?
the same
That's-
way,
that's
same
the
way you
question.
quantify, same way you quantify the economic.
Well, we have an economic development director, maybe he should start working on trying to get additional businesses out there.
All right,
Good point.
I mean, that is,
Well,
Your position,
so I
right?
real test and everything out there. How many employees do you guys got? 460 employees. I just talked to.
how often are you using the airport for work? Are you bringing people in to tour and demo things, or?
Going out to customers primarily.
Okay.
Boston Heating uses it. They used to do a trip last week. They have 90 employees in town.
I get it.
They use it.
Fireboat's not in town. You want to move to town?
We have a lot of employees from Gainesville.
I get it. All I'm saying is, the perception is, and you can talk about my salary as a lawyer, it's not 6 figures either,
Yeah.
but the perception is, these are people who can afford to fly planes, why are we subsidizing them? So, we look at the list, I get it. Most people on there, a lot of people on there are retired. But, we don't have families in town who are using the airport. We have an air show once a year, which is fantastic. I'm glad that it's thriving and growing. But we're not talking a huge sum of money for an airport, for a hangar rental.
I know, but you don't know pilots, and they are tight. They squeak.
so now you raise the rent, and now you're gonna cut down fuel sales, because the money that they have set aside to go flying is gonna be spent on hangar, not fuel.
I think it's a backwards move, but that's my.
So how do we pay for the airport then? Is
The answer you're not gonna like, and it's gonna take time, is if you have more hangars out there, and you pull people in from the Wilderness, you pull people in from Sauk Center, and you pull people in from Maple Lake, and you get 40-some airplanes out there, now you have more people paying in, and you have more fuel being sold. Now you have an opportunity to put in an FBO, because now you have 40 airplanes that all need annuals every year, right?
And a couple $1,000
And a couple thousand a pop,
Where
at
does
least in a
the,
facility.
where does the money come to build the hangars?
Well,
Where does
that's
the money
exactly
come from the
right.
runway?
Yeah.
So, if we want to maintain the airport, we have to raise rates. If we don't, the airport's going to continue losing money, and it's going to be cumulative. And we're going to, if we don't do it now, we're going to have this discussion in 5 years. And instead of raising it $600 a year, we're going to have to raise it $1,000 a year.
And you'll have empty hangars.
And then we'll have empty hangars, and the airport will just shut down.
Yep, and then you're gonna
So-
be paying back the feds and the state how much money like Silver Bay is.
So do we raise it now so that we can do maintenance on it and keep it functioning? Because what happens if we don't do that runway?
What's
What's
our
it gonna cost to do the runway in 10 years versus doing it in 3?
Well, and then you also have to look at, right now is a bad time to be raising it $600, especially in 2024, when people aren't gonna have access to their airplanes for 8 weeks.
Most Americans don't fly that much, people don't fly that much anyway. Majority of the people on our list even buy fuel that's during this span.
I mean, we agree that we're not
Should be great,
great.
and nice stick to the numbers we came up with.
But I mean, I have Benson, $26,000 difference between their revenues and expenditures.
Benson has $20 million sitting in their bank account. They can afford to do
A lot of these towns that were brought up are also county seats. Cambridge, they're county seats. Cambridge, Mora, Wilmer, they have a county courthouse there, and a lot of the administration also, so they're gonna have more of an infrastructure to work with. We're just on the west end of St. Cloud, and we all know that for Stearns County, the buck stops in Cold Spring. So we're kind of left, trying to come up with our own ways to get this stuff done. And I have a hard job selling up to the residents that it's a good deal. Let's get more involved in it. But on the other hand, I'm trying to help you guys out too. The only other thing I could mention, to tell you the truth, to get more people involved, is, you said you give lessons?
Yeah, I've taught 10 people in the past 3 years at the airport.
High school kids get their license for free. They pay for the fuel in the aircraft.
Tom and I help out Mr. Tim Whaler in his aviation class. We teach the IFR part of it. That's who the principal Painesville Airport. After that, if they're interested in flying, we teach them for free. I'm a CFI, John's a CFI, Dan Grothy's a CFI, and Kyle Cooper's going next week for his CFI. So some kids get learn for free. We teach them for free. And that has nothing to do with the flying at the Seagulls, it's for the Prince Painesville Airport. That's totally for the air show. That's just what we do.
Well, and what I'm saying is that the more interest you get pulled in, there's a good chance to expand it where we can at least change the attitude of the people that are fighting it right now. Is that, why don't you go up in the airplane with these guys and see if it's worthwhile or not?
$600 is a knee jerk.
Yep. And as far as going up in the airplane, just tell any of them, just call me. We'll take one
Believe
of
us.
Is there an interest in this board going to the township and the local communities and asking them to contribute?
Sure.
Because why is it just the city paying this?
The other thing,
I'm happy to go to the township. I go to the township meetings every couple months.
Yeah. I mean, is the Friends willing to kick in something to it?
That's a good idea. I mean, they should be able.
another thing we might want to look at too is just having this as a regular airport. What would it sound like to have crop dusters get based out of here? Because there's a co-op in town they can get their chemicals from.
The crop dusters come in here,
Yeah,
they use
they
the
do.
airport,
They do.
that's what we
They
don't
come from
offer
South
jet
Center.
fuel. And we
So
don't offer
then-
jet fuel for them, so they truck in their own jet fuel, 3,000 gallons a summer. That we're losing out on.
They
fuel
park,
cells
they'll
because
park
we
out here in
don't offer
August,
it.
and we base out here for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Park the
From
tank
South
right there,
Center.
just fill up.
Okay,
Old Indian comes up.
Olivia comes up.
okay.
And we see, like Sauk Center, they have a facility, a place, and the guys that run a shop also run the spray business.
Yeah,
If
right.
you want a facility that puts
The
it.
big boost would be to get an FBO with a mechanic in here. That would make a lot of these pains go away.
And I don't disagree, it maybe could, but I look at it from, we've got a runway that has to get fixed now. Because if we don't do it now, in 10 years, it's gonna cost us 3 times as much. Because through inflation and deterioration of the condition, it's gonna be just awful. And there'll be an accident and somebody will, I don't wanna go there. So we need, hold on, Tom. We need to do the runway now. We don't have the time for an FBO to come in and build that base. We have to pay for this now. And I look at the numbers, Budget and Finance met and talked about this twice. How much is the city benefiting from the airport? I can't put a figure on that. I don't know how many people come into town on a regular basis. I know that people come in and fill up with gas. But I also know that when we went to New Mexico, I stopped at about 10 places and filled up with gas. And all I did was put gas in my car and leave. So my economic effect on their community was about $3.50 in fuel profit.
We did call local businesses that we thought might use it, like Boss and Centric Air and some of the industrial park. And, you know, a couple of them still use it, but others, you know, have been using it less.
The data that we are seeing show that the airport, and this is why I'm saying, prove me wrong, but the data I'm seeing show the airport is used by those who rent the hangars.
There's no way that's even close. Just look at the fuel cells.
Can we charge a landing fee?
No,
Why not?
I don't think we can do it.
I don't think you legally can avoid it. That's,
Municipal airport, if it's private, you can. You
Well-
can charge a ramp fee if they come on your ramp.
I don't want to focus on hangar rates because ultimately we're just trying to shrink that budget gap.
We're trying to figure out how do we support the airport? Because we can't put a runway in at the rate the budget is right now. We can't afford to do it. And if we can't afford to put the runway in, we might as well just close the airport.
I mean, you just close it down anyway. I mean, why not? We'd be money ahead, wouldn't worry about it.
Well, I like your idea of asking maybe some of the nearby townships if they're willing to contribute.
I mean, if we're saying that going up in a rental rate is gonna drive everyone out, we have to look at other sources of
I think
revenue.
the local townships, I think that's a good idea. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Doesn't have to be a lot, just, something that will make an impact. Like I said, I mean, we're reducing our expense side from the airport and anything that can contribute, and then that way we don't have to raise rates so much.
I agree.
Tom had a good idea too, have the economic development director get some more business out there,
Mhm.
so.
And help us find a way to measure the people who are coming in to fill up. What are they doing?
That's the problem, see, it's not a manned airport, we're not there.
Yeah.
I'm there in the morning, but I'm not there.
How many miles are
Interviewing
on a
people.
courtesy car? Any?
Oh, yeah, there's a.
It's used,
Oh,
yeah.
In the summertime, I'd say an average once a week for sure.
Okay. Well, that's a fair amount more than I thought.
The one fee we should institute is for these crowd dusters. Right now, they come in for free,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, I just don't know how you go about doing it. I suppose you could charge a ramp fee, maybe. I don't know if they'll pay it.
Well,
Do
if
other
they're parking
airports
their
do it?
fuel there,
No.
we should charge that.
if what?
If they're parking a fuel truck there, there should be something for that. That much fuel on the runway is causing wear and tear on the asphalt.
We make 48 cents a gallon, is that right on fuel?
46.
46. So that Zero Uniform probably contributed about $800-900.
Yeah, actually, I wrote that down. So the students,
We're doing about $200 a year on
the
this,
students put 631.49 gallons through that 172 that time.
just this year,
Just this year.
so far this year.
And none of the students own a hangar or rent there, or have a hangar rent attendant.
There's an economic development, I guess, you're providing education for kids, there's a pilot shortage.
There's 10 more pilots.
People you can get interested in that.
Yeah, Delta's shutting down flights because they're on pilots.
My second student I taught here flies at Delta now, Matt Larson. We get all his ratings at this airport.
No, I mean, those are the things, it's like, we don't know. So
Yeah, I taught her.
Like, I didn't know the students did that. That is something.
Yeah, Larry Bowman, I taught how to fly. Matt Larson, who flies for Delta. The next one was, who went after that? Ryan Frank, he does that airplane, he flies airplane, sure I've taught him. My daughter, Jake Koonsleven, who's now at Isle Lakes for aviation, getting his stuff. And then after that, we had Kyle. He's getting his ratings.
Kyle,
His
Bob,
ratings out there.
Pete.
Bob has a hangar now.
Pete,
Pete,
Gary,
O'Darian, and,
Jake Beavis.
yeah, right, Jake Beavis.
There's 10 of them.
And then prior to that, I guess we had Trevor Kemish, he's at Isle Lakes for aviation. And then we had Dahl, Corey Dahl, who went to Mankato State for the ratings.
I do get calls every week, people want to go for a ride, so in fact, we got a couple of people down there.
Anyway,
If we can find alternative funding sources, I'm okay with leaving the rent lower. But as it stands right now, if we're gonna replace the runway, which we have to do, I don't know that we have a way around this.
I think townships, that's kind of obvious, I think, I can't believe we haven't looked at that already.
yeah, I did do Never thought of it.
No, good idea.
I mean, if the township can come in with 15 or 20 a year, great.
I would say anything. If they come in with 5 or 10,000, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna help our budget.
Yeah.
And I would say, I mean, just looking at the users on here, the township is going to be easier to quantify the economic benefit to the township than it is the city. Because I think that's more visible as far as residents and things like that. But I have to look out for the city of Painesville's checkbook. And that's where it gets hard. Because we're looking at $170,000 in an account that right now is sitting at -10. So we have to come up with $180,000 for a runway. Where is it going to come from?
So what's the next step to get the township involved?
Someone should go to their next meeting.
Has to be put on their agenda? Bring it to them?
Unfortunately, they like to meet at the same time we do, so.
True.
Otherwise, I'd go with you.
No, they're meeting on Tuesdays now.
Are they?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what Lori told me.
Okay.
Yes, with Painesville Township.
Yeah, because they don't want to overlap.
Okay.
But I tell you what, if you guys were to show up to that township board meeting and just tell them what you just told us, it would make a hell of a lot more sense than us trying to pass it along, because you guys know a lot more what's happening with it. And it'll make a lot more sense. So,
When is the next meeting?
I think
They
it's
meet
probably
on the
next
same
Tuesday.
schedule we do, so yeah, next
I'll see
Tuesday.
Steve tomorrow at the car wash, I'll ask Steve.
Tuesday, when we do it.
Yeah, don't quote me on the Tuesday thing yet, but I know Lori was saying that they had brought that up because it interferes with the town.
It would be nice if they did.
Yeah,
Well, their meetings only go through May 23rd. It's helpful. We can contact them. You said you'll see Steve tomorrow. I can email them as well.
Yeah, I'll see
Steve a call. But, no, we just go there and talk to them. But $180,000 is not a small amount of money. And where else is it going to come from?
The way I kind of see that is, you're not asking for the people that live on the block of the splash pad to pay for the splash pad. You know, you're asking for these tenants to pay for the whole airport by themselves. And 77% more people use it. It's like a splash pad. It's not like taxing all them people when you gotta pay for it, but everybody else gets to use it. It's the same thing.
Find me another source of revenue.
Yeah, like I said, we don't want to focus on hangar rates, we just want to see how we can get that gap down.
and the problem that we have after the budgets for police and fire, water and sewer and streets are established, everything else after that is kind of like a tug of war of where it's going to go. It's going to go to the park and trails, is it going to go to the airport board, is it going to go to wherever?
What if you said we can't charge, not a ramp fee, but
Landing
landing
fee.
fee because it's a municipal airport? What if it went private? What if we formed an airport commission, like the MAC down in the metro, and we had an airport commission?
Would we lose a bunch of funding if we go private?
No,
I think you could maintain that same.
Tom might talk about
we
this.
talked about it. But if you do that, then you lose the income from the hangars.
We're losing income from the hangars.
So,
Would it be easier to get an FBO in if it was private?
I don't know if it would even.
I don't know if that would. I guess if we're gonna make it private, then whoever decides to make it private, like St. Cloud Airport is now private.
Okay.
Right, that just happened.
That just happened in 2021, where they went to a City of St. Cloud turned over Airport Authority to the St. Cloud Regional Airport Authority, I think is what they call themselves. You know, if we're gonna do something like that, then, you know, they have Benton, Stearns, and Sherwood all contributing money to the airport. You know, so you'd have, you know, you could go to Painesville, you could go to Roseville Township, Painesville Township. You know, look at the townships that the pilots are from and say, hey, this is your contribution to the airport. You know, we have enough industry here where, you know, if our air runway was what, 700 feet longer?
A little bit more.
That's the most you can do, right, 700 feet?
How much room do we have over there?
I thought 700 was.
So you're dealing with power lines, right?
I'd have to look again, I don't recall the exact.
You know, but we already have one aircraft, Plain Sense comes in here once a week. Once a week. That's a fuel sale we're losing because we don't offer that fuel.
They come in every Wednesday, every Thursday with a Pilatus BC-12, they leave every Sunday for Grand Rapids, Michigan. They bring a couple that have a place on the ramp on the lake.
What would it cost you to another fuel tank up there?
It's a lot.
Couple $100,000.
That much? Okay.
Probably upwards of $400.
A lot of jobs.
So we do get some turbine traffic in there, but I mean, and you're right, I mean, the turbine traffic, they put a lot of beat on that runway, they hit hard. And we get nothing out of it, zero.
And especially if they're just touching and going.
Well, you know, they usually land and drop off, you know, because the truck sales from Starbucks, they come in with the team quite a bit. And Davey jumps in with them when they're buying semis. So that airplane comes in here quite a bit too. We don't offer jet fuel, so they buy their jet fuel over at Glenwood, they come over here. Same with the Guard, when the Guard uses the airport, all, you know, they're coming here, they do their tests and everything, they use the runway. Obviously, they're not gonna be any jet fuel, so.
Is fuel tank eligible for discretionary?
I don't know about discretionary.
What would happen if you were to,
Nippies. Maybe eligible for our nippies and yes.
The regular federal fund.
what happens if we were to lease a fuel tank? Give it a 1 or 2 year shot, see if it's gonna make any money.
You know, I think if we're gonna go to jet fuel, was that who I was talking to? Or maybe it was John. I think if we're gonna go to jet fuel, I think our thing is we push to get an FBO and then put the jet fuel in the truck. So maybe move it around.
Definitely got it on track.
You know, a stationary pump like the current one tank just doesn't work. It's not ideal for the jet fuel because each aircraft has a different wingspan.
Right.
Yep. It's tougher to move around.
Yeah, and if you did truck, it'd be a lot cheaper anyway.
You know, you can buy, I mean, you could buy a fuel truck right now for $50,000.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you got somebody that's someone to pay for it, so.
You know, I think one of the things we do, I think we got a market for an FBO. I think, and do baby steps with the FBO.
What is the hiring market like for an FBO? We can't get pilots, we can't get anything else. Are there FBOs out there looking for work?
Everyone's looking for work for us. The one thing you do have is, and what happened at Benson, is the guy got sick at Wilmer, wanted his own shop back with his family, the whole family moved up to Benson, they managed the airport. It's the same thing that happened down in Waconia. It's a family-run airport. Wife, kids, they all take care of the airport, they all work there. That, if you could get something like that here, that'd be great. You know, somebody who's sick and tired of working for somebody, wants his own shop, wants to move his family out here, they mow the grass, they take care of the runway, and they manage the whole thing. You know, they pump the fuel, they take care of the airport, they pay them an airport management fee, and that's that.
It's pretty much what Candy does.
Canby does the same thing with Lake.
You know, I think we push, you know, if we're gonna get an FBO, target an FBO, you know, one of the benefits coming here is we have the EDAP, where the person could get an EDAP loan to cover their 50%
Mm-hmm.
of the AIR. You know, and if they max out on the AR, what, 250,000?
Yeah,
that seems what it is.
Yeah, that's what it seems to me.
That's 500,000 for a building. And I think we priced out a hangar your size is just shy of 100.
And if we start selling jet fuel, then you can get a jet.
There you go.
We gotta get runway too.
You need to increase, I mean, you need to increase the weight.
But the Kramer Trucking's been looking for a TBM too also, you know, that takes jet fuel, that's kind of when Jeff Kramer's around, so like, every time I got a tanker of fuel.
And just to clarify, I mean, when we say jet fuel, we're not necessarily talking about a jet. There's
Right.
propeller airplanes.
Yep.
With the turbos.
Yep.
Ron, how big of a pain in the behind would it be for one of your guys to run out there and drive the truck around if somebody came in? If it was like an on-call basis.
It'd have to be certified first. For a
It has been,
It has been, yep.
although, I don't think you need that for on airport property.
Not on private property.
Okay, you're right.
Well, but the airport is not considered private.
But it's not considered a road, so you don't need like the DMV stuff either.
Well, that's something that's Paul
Find
Legner.
out particulars of it first.
Okay.
I think we burn
That
out
would be
the
tough.
crew. That's gonna be tough. Because you're gonna be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Well, it might just be
Somebody
one of
is,
those.
right?
What's that?
Somebody's on call, but that means we probably all have to.
Well, or we just say, you're only getting jet fuel between these hours. But I don't know that that's gonna cover the cost of the investment.
I don't think so.
No. You know,
What happens if you were to get like Senex to do that? Because they've already got a vehicle, a couple vehicles where they could do that. Would that be a possibility?
I just don't know if you're gonna pump a whole ton, a lot. Everybody, the perception now, everybody's like, that plane's on that jet fuel, you know, so they take her in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Plain Sense is coming in from Michigan, right?
Not even for Grand Rapids.
So they're probably tankering enough to get either to St. Cloud, Litchfield, or
Well,
you know, one of the things, you know,
here's where,
obviously NetJets doesn't come in.
It's too short, we can't get in there.
What other private, besides Plain Sense and NetJets, is there?
Well, all the fractionals, it's too short. We go to Wilmer for St. Cloud.
I mean, we can't even get a Cirrus Vision jet in here.
No, it's too short.
It's too short.
okay, we have an airport right now that's, it's not capturing the revenue of the people who are predominantly using it, if we look at fuel sales. We have wear and tear in our airport by heavy planes setting down, and we can't sell them fuel to even make up for what they're doing. As a city, we have to pay for it somehow. Right now, that is raising rents or getting money from other government entities or other groups. I'm doubting that the Friends group wants to pay anything towards the runway.
The only money we make, we don't even make, the only money we get is from donations for the air show,
Right.
that's it. The rest is completely volunteer.
I get it. If we went to a privatized airport, now you can charge for the planes that are using it. And the other thing is that come a year from now, the person who's doing all of the federal reports isn't going to be with the city anymore. At least that's all I really hope and pray that when Ron goes off and enjoys his retirement, which is well earned, that we can find somebody to replace him. But this is one component of what Ron does that terrifies me, that we're not going to find a replacement.
You know what?
And if we went private, now the city doesn't have to worry about that.
I just don't, you'd have to be staffed, that's the only thing, it's privately staffed, and you have a landing fee.
City's never going to go for it.
Yeah, I agree.
The money-
What are you thinking, Tom?
You know, I think, well, me and you, Paul, have had this conversation on where I think we should go.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, and, you know, nothing against Ron. I enjoy working with Ron. You know, even when I was an employee here at the city, I think me and Ron had a good working relationship. But we need to get someone out there that can spend a little bit more time. as a city, I think that's one of our failures too, is we don't market the airport. I think it was last year, people were showing up at the air show, and people were like, we need to know there's an airport.
Yep, it's true.
You know, if we had, personally, I think we should go towards the privatization, but that person's gonna have to sit down and actually figure out, you know, the city's still going to be, if I'm not mistaken, if I read all the documents right, the city's still gonna have a little bit into the airport just for the fact that they're gonna be the ones that receive the money from the feds and everything that turns it over. And I'd have to read all that stuff. There's not many airports, you know, like you said, MAC, St. Cloud is the St. Cloud Regional Airport Authority. Because I mean, what are our expenses towards Golden Bank every year for an airport? Do you have any?
They're only project related.
What's that?
They're only project related.
Oh, they're only project related.
I don't think there's pretty minimal.
It's very minimal.
Not-
I think that's not project related, yes. The majority is by far project related.
I mean, there might be a little time deal with some CAP stuff and stuff.
The benefit to
Yeah, but then-
going with somebody that knows aviation is huge. You know, I first started, I went to a lot of seminars, and just trying to speak the lingo of pilots.
Still don't get it.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years just to figure that out. So that's the type of person, yes, I think we really need to look for.
And look at when I was here, you know, I got you on ForeFlight, updating the fuel prices and putting in there the air courtesy card. That's, you know, what ForeFlight is an app for pilots that, you know, as they're flying, they can literally look at the fuel prices and it pulls, you know, they can click on Painesville and say, or it brings up the whole region, I should say, and tells you all the fuel prices in the region, who has the cheaper fuel. It goes back to the pilots being as good as. From here to Litchfield is what? If you're in the air already? 15 minutes, and if fuel is 25 cents cheaper, they're gonna keep going.
The other thing with that is you put in, this takes some of the community too, right? You put in, a lot of times people leave comments, oh, there's a great restaurant 2 blocks down, there's a great restaurant across the street.
I don't
Check
know,
out.
I don't know how to plan my phone, so I can't pull the comments up, but, I mean, there's comments in there about, hey, Painesville has a courtesy car. There's also comments in there that says, the fuel system sucks, and it doesn't work.
How many,
Yeah, and you know, I went through all these, and it's unbelievable how many times people's cars got maxed out, they never pumped a single gallon, and they left. And then the problem is very simple, because I was there, and it happened. It says, turn the pump switch on. There's no arrow to the pump switch, they know where it is. It times out, it holds 250 bucks. Actually, right now, we're holding just shy of $300 on the card. They swipe it again, it holds another 300. Next thing you know, the car gets declined. And I never got a single drop of gas. And it's happening here over and over and over.
Well, it's got a sign out there that shows where the
So,
pump
yeah,
switch is.
exactly. I mean, all it needs is an arrow that points down and it just says pump switch. I mean,
I don't know.
all I looked at today, it was like, this has got to get fixed.
Everybody
Because
gets
it
it,
is,
switch on the inside.
Okay. That's
it's a simple
probably get that
fix.
fixed by the end of the week,
Well, yeah, I mean,
end of next week.
yeah, but, yeah, it holds 56.92 with 200, just at $300. And yeah, this guy swiped it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and never bought a single drop of gas.
How many gallons was it?
Well, it holds, I think it holds your card at 56.92, and that's when we were at 427. So I think it comes right just shy of $300. Is that right? So now that's another point. If we're at 640, I think I saw when we put gas in today. What is the card limit? Because at 640, guys haven't put very much gas and it's going to shut them down.
Yeah,
There's a
should double the card limit.
Yeah, exactly.
$300.
Right, so that doesn't get you.
My
a lot of
card in
gas
cases is
now.
125, so.
Can we adjust
Might
that?
be a
limit?
piece of
That
it.
can be adjusted just by going on.
Yeah, at least 600.
Well, yeah, because if you when boss comes in out of that barrier, put on, well, even, some of these guys are coming in and putting on 70 to 100 gallons.
No, I think it's higher than that, because I know Andy Lindstrom had bumped it up for him once.
Yeah, but a lot of these that are timing out at, well, you know what? I had one guy that came in here, and I think he scraped this car 3 times to fill the airplane, because it kept timing out on him.
Have we, me and you had a conversation on Monday about pre-buying fuel every year? Have we done any follow-up on that?
I don't see how well they would do it, but you never know. It's possible.
First fuel banks did it in St. Cloud for how many years? People were paying 25 cents up to
Mhm.
1990s.
Here it is. $299.97, swiped 1, 2, 3 times before he got filled up.
I just wish we'd known that, could have fixed it months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I got this printout, I just sat down and when I was en route to the East Coast, I just went through the whole thing and wrote all that stuff down. Yeah, I found a lot of different things in there. That was one, and the one that people swipe cards and not people
The
get.
fuel upgrade that we did does not seem to be like an upgrade. The old M3, I think we had, I don't think we ever had a single problem, really.
Right.
This one here, they've had how many upgrades already, and
Well, there was that time when people were getting free
People
gas.
only were getting charged.
I mean, is QT or
QT.
QT pod and then fuel vendor?
They're the best. They are, really. The one we had originally, absolutely was by far worse.
I haven't had any problem with this, once I figured out, you gotta try to switch it.
Right. It's the switch.
Should we entertain a thought of having Bill Spooner look at privatizing the airport, just to see where we're at?
I don't want to pay Bill to do it. Not until we know that that's the direction we want to go.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let me rephrase this then. Should we start doing some research on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think your first thing you're gonna have to do is reach out to the FAA because they got a whole list of things. I know just the very little stuff that I've read.
Okay.
You know, we just have to get 65% of the airport tenants to say, yeah, go ahead. And there's a bunch of other requirements that have to be fulfilled.
I'm going to interject. Sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to cut you off. I've got to leave at 6:20, so I just want to make sure if there's anything else I can answer before I leave, that I do. Again, I'm open for finding alternative revenues, but we can't pay for the runway the way it is now. So where else can we look?
And I really think 175, I think you gotta go backwards with revenue, so I think going 175 is too much. So I think the alternative revenue sources is a really good idea, and I just can't believe we didn't think that sooner.
Yeah, I'd like to stick with your recommendation last time and then go to the township.
Yeah.
If this gets put on the council's first meeting in August, which is, oh, come on, computer. August 8th, a little over 2 weeks. Do you think that gives you folks enough time to go out to the township and gauge interest there?
The township meeting would be August 9th, right? You're on the same week as you guys are.
They could be next Tuesday, or maybe we put this on for the 22nd on the
Let's
council.
put it on the 22nd.
22nd.
Because I don't think they'll be able to get on the agenda.
Let me text Steve.
I think I have it scheduled for 2.
Yeah, I think they be same thing we.
Paul was saying they might have switched to Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's what Lori Gotwald told me.
Right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking they would still have next week's meeting,
Mhm.
but that's only one. I mean, I also think it would be nice to talk to some of the other local communities. It doesn't just have to be the township.
I didn't get it, was that?
It doesn't just have to be the township. We have other
Right,
communities
right.
involved here.
That's what I was thinking too, you know, we got.
There's a lot of guys on this list with Spicer. Just need to follow on this list.
There's a lot of money in Spicer.
Where are our current numbers at for the budget? Because you guys have said that the numbers of the salaries have already come down a little bit.
Yeah. So we had a preliminary budget at our last meeting. I'll tell you what was in there. And Ron is working on finalizing those with Belinda on how they're lowering. total salary right now proposed for next budget year is $38,935, which is an increase of $899 from this year.
That's not taking into consideration the 5,000 plus that we're talking about taking out of there.
It'll be more than that. Plus, you know, when you reduce that, you also reduce the FICA, Medicare, et cetera. So that
Okay,
will
so we might get
also go
close to
down.
10.
Yeah, if you include everything through insurance, comes up to $50,785.
And the big reduction's gonna be in the transfer to CIP initially. I'm thinking we had to make that budget for doing the airport. So I had it at 40,000 for the next 2 years. We're gonna be able to cut that in half.
Okay.
So that'll be about 20,000.
Good, because I already proposed doing that in my
Okay,
modification.
I've got a question. You know how the city of Painesville helps out like Litchfield and other airports when they have projects coming on? Why couldn't we tap off of that program? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The entitlements for like hangar.
Where we at with the entitlement payback, so we all paid back?
Yeah, I think we did that,
I
right?
think the
We have
last
to
two,
do one, so
I think the last one goes to Aiken
Yeah,
this
next
year.
Right, yep.
next year.
Next year?
So that was just federal entitlement portion. You're not sharing local
Right,
shares.
there's no local money in that.
It's just borrowing your entitlements to other airports and then getting paid back in a future year is what.
And you asked about what truck costs. The average over 2019 to 2021 is $334 a year. Lowest was 150 and the highest was 690.
That was also a project, coming up with a project year, right? The 690. Probably.
I'd have to go back and see that. Like I said, they did about 99% of the stuff.
I'll just look at, you know, how much expenses a product or have. Because then I think if we look at the private, doing private, I think there's some build your own hangars. Don't go with the FAA specs necessarily. You know, I don't think we're opposed to raising the rent a little in the meantime. And then trying to come up with alternate funding sources for the other stuff, but.
Well, the alternate funding needs to be now. I mean, otherwise the rent has to go up, because otherwise we can't get the rent back. And the funds just aren't there. Ron, I cut and slashed basically all of your capital improvements to try and get us to under a 10% levy increase. And I showed them to Belinda, and she said, you can't cut all of those.
Do we know what our electric bill is out there?
Yes, let's see, utility.
I mean, I guess I could do it at average.
Well, your 21 utilities was $7,000.
I mean, 38 city hangars, right?
28.
20. 28 city hangars.
It's not a great situation because we either raise rates, in which case everyone here is telling us everyone's leaving and the airport dies, or we don't raise rates, in which case we can't afford to maintain the airport and the airport dies. So let's get creative and find alternatives then.
I think we're getting there.
And how many garages do we have rented out up there?
Storage?
Storage is
Three. All right, is there anything else?
Gentlemen, thanks for letting me be here. I have to leave. My wife's already texting me and reminding me that I have to be home. So anyone needs to talk to me, feel free to reach out. Otherwise,
Make a, do you make a motion to adjourn or no? Just adjourn?